Good discussion?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how many of you decided you need to give your kid an allowance? Okay.
Is that actual money or fake money? You give them cash, they can spend right away, or you give them some like a bank account, they deposit, they never can touch it.
That's a good point. That's interesting. Yeah. A lot of people have found that when you have to really pay for something out of your own money, it means more to you, and you pay more attention to whatever it is that you're spending your money on. If it's just freely given, the value of that money becomes powerless. You do not understand the true value. Dave Ramsey, who has a huge organization that its sole purpose is to help people get out of debt and to put them on the pathway that makes them prosperous to be able to achieve their own goals, has basically come up with a process where he says, do not give your kids an allowance. Do give them commissions. This is something new for me. I like the idea. He's basically saying, for you to live in my household and to participate, there's certain chores you have to do, period. Because you're getting food, you're getting a place to sleep, you got clothes on your back, etc. But we also have other things that could be done or need to be done. And if you do those things, I'll give you a bonus. I'll give you a little commission for the extras. Suddenly, those extras become very valuable to a person. Now, part of the reason is because hopefully at some point, your parents taught you, and you are going to teach your kid how compounding interest works, and how growth in the stock market works, and how bear markets work. Now, you might not know those things, but you can learn them. It's not that hard. The bottom line is, if you start with the child, say about that age, and you say, put a penny in savings every day for the rest of your life, will he become a millionaire?
Yeah.
Yes, he will. It's that simple. Most millionaires, when you talk to them, invested 10% of their income, no matter what, every paycheck, period. They just made sure they lived on less money. So if you invest 10% of every paycheck into your future, whenever that time is, you too will be a millionaire. Now, I know part of that sounds glamorous. I'm a millionaire. I get to be a millionaire. And yet we know that if you want to own a house in California, you have to pay a minimum of $1 million just to get a house. And that's for that small little thing. Now, if you live in the wrong side of the town, on the south side of Chicago, for about $20,000 you can get a house too. Don't know how long you'd live, but you can get a house. That aside, the principle still stands. If you always save for the future 10% of your money, it's pretty hard to go broke. And it's pretty hard not to have sufficient funds for later in life when you need it. It's that simple. Now, we know it's that simple because there's an entire industry that have set up pension funds and 401ks and all kinds of different ways of saving money for colleges and retirement. And they know there's so much money involved that they have a lot of lobby groups that really pressure the government so that they can charge you taxes and interest and fees for managing things for you, and they can raise those dollar amounts up, and they can eat away at your profits. And the government allows it because you'll have so much money still left over. But if a third of your money disappears, it's your money. So there's a little bit of a problem in our system. So pay attention closely when you go to doing your investments. Find out who's getting what of your money. But the fact is, you can grow your money. And if you start at age 4, by the time you're 65, just by investing a penny every day and increasing your investments as the money pool increases. So you might start out with a 1.5% interest-bearing account. Later on, you get into stocks that maybe average 6%. You know, maybe when the stocks are down, you're into bonds, which are up, and vice versa. Typically, you'll have $1 million, if not far more than that. It only takes 30 years if you double your money every year. If you start with a penny and you double a penny every year, in 30 days, you'll have $5 million. But over 45 years, not doubling every day, just going at the standard interest rates, you'll have $1 million as well. So you could do it either way. The key is, don't sit there thinking, how do I get rich quick? Who plays stock market better, men or women? Oh, there's a brave soul. She said woman.
Men.
That was brave of you. Good thing you're right.
Oh.
Men are too greedy.
Okay, now you're going a bit far, thank you. So men will try and play the market and outdo each other, and, you know, I like bragging rights. I remember one investment year, I made 16% on my money in 3 weeks. Doesn't that sound really good? Yeah. But ask me how much I made the next year. No, don't ask. The woman, female investor typically studies, makes a wise decision, and then sits on it for a couple decades. Where the guy goes in and out and in and out and in and out and in and out, buying and selling, buying and selling, buying and selling, buying and selling. I think the last article I read was that women end up with about 35% more money than men at the end of their investment period. So, when in doubt, ask a woman. She knows. All right, so what else did we learn financially? How else can we help encourage our Generation Z kids to know how to deal with money? Did anything else come up in the discussions?
Maybe they should learn how to budget.
Learn how to budget! Oh my gosh, what a brilliant idea! Is this a negative word or a positive word?
It's planning, basically.
It's plenty?
Planning. Planning.
Planning. It is all about planning. So, when I was being raised, my mother taught me that budgets are terrible because they restrict you. My dad taught me that budgets allow you to accomplish your future goals. Both of them were right. I prefer my dad's perspective. Budgets are very positive. I have a friend who every year said, you know what, I'm going to go to Israel, to the Holy Land. I've never been there. I've always wanted to go. I'm going to go there next year. Well, next year would come and he didn't go. And then he'd say, you know what, next year I'm going to go to the Holy Land. Next year would come and he didn't go. And he'd say, you know what, next year I'm going to Israel. After 7 years, another friend of mine turned to him and said, shut up. No, he didn't really. What he really said was, you're not going this year. And the guy said, what do you mean I'm not going? I said I'm going. No, you're not. You know why? Because you didn't budget, so the money's not available, so you're not going. We have to budget if we want to accomplish our goals. So that year, he put the budget together. At the end of 12 months, he went to Israel for the first time. we were all proud of him. I had another friend say, I can tell where your favorite place is on earth by looking in your checkbook, where you spent the most money because you went there on vacation more than once. So we know your favorite place on earth. Now, for me, it was pretty easy. They guessed Disney World, and they were right. Yes, I was there last week. Okay. So, budgeting is super important. The key is to budget, not to restrain yourself, but to budget to help you accomplish your goal. Dave Ramsey recommends the app called Every Dollar. And Every Dollar is a tool that can interface with your bank. If your child has an account and they learn how to use the app, they can literally set up budgets so they know how much they're setting aside for college, how much they're setting aside for clothing, for sports, for music, for whatever it is that they want to participate in. Here's one. Did this come up? Did you talk about scholarships or grants or taxing the rich so your kid can have more money? You're all looking at me like, what? Why wouldn't we have talked about that? Well, because in the next election, you're going to hear a lot about taxing the rich and so on. One of the things that I found I had to do is I had to help educate my kids to understand that free money is not free. Someone is paying for it. So are you all aware that the minimum wage went up not too long ago?
Yeah.
And it's staggered, so over the next 5 years it's continuing going up to a certain amount. And when that new law went into play, other laws also went into play, which were not promoted by the politicians. See, they only promote the ones that make it look good. So if they cut your hours back from 40 down to 37 and a half, they don't have to give you benefits. So my sister worked at a company last year where they had, I'm going to guess at the number, I don't know the exact number, about 100 employees, and they all were receiving benefits. Because the minimum wage went up, they all shifted to 37 and a half hours, and they all lost the benefits to compensate for the minimum wage. So while the person, first-time worker coming in, instead of getting $8.50, now gets 10-something and later 15-something, all the other people don't get benefits now, so that a couple new people can get hired money at first, instead of waiting until their skills increase so that they too can get paid for better skills. When you talk to your kids, I don't care which side of the fence you're on, if you want the rich taxed or not taxed. The key is, do your kids understand that if something is free over here, it means someone is paying for something else over here. Now, we just had a recent election about a year ago or so with a new governor. And the first thing he did,
一会儿有人来照相，不是那个15周年嘛。So you guys can do whatever you want, and there will be a photographer. I want to take some pictures.